Hello everyone. This is the video that I've just been talking to you about on the techniques email, and the video that you would normally be getting on the 6th of December, but I've decided to let you have it sooner so that you can use your techniques and maybe have this background that I'm going to paint now as a guide to how to lay down the background. And I'm going to paint some sloes today from a photograph that Julie sent. Thank you. I just love the colours and I want to try and get the actual bloom that they have on them. And I know it's going to be a bit of a challenge, but I made a start, so I think I know how to work it out. And these are the colours that I'm going to use. There seem to be quite a lot there, but these are the background colours, which I've actually got mixed up here already to go. These are the colours that I've used in the fruit, in the actual sloes. These are the branch colours and any greenery that I may put behind. But first of all, I want to get on and just create a background for you to see the way I lay down just a very simple background that isn't going to fight with my subject. So I've started off by just spraying some clean water onto the paper, and now I'm using my hake to spread it around the paper, going in all different directions and completely wetting the page. And this is a similar way to the way we would start off painting a sky as well. And so I'm using the blending technique that you saw in my technique video before. And I'll continue to use the hake because I think most of you have got one of these, but any nice flat soft brush would work well, and also a big round flat brush would work also. So I've got varying colours here. I'm actually going to just soften this yellow down a little bit. That looked a little thick to me. So I'm starting with this cad-free yellow pale because my sloes are purple, and this is a nice complementary colour to the purple. But I don't want it everywhere, so I'm actually just dotting it here and there so that it can mingle with the other colours that I'm actually going to pop down next. So I've also got some raw sienna out, which is going to brighten up that yellow a little bit. So load the brush, just dot it around, because I'm going to move the paper around in a minute and allow all these colours to mingle. Clean the brush. And now I've got some Perylene Violet here, which I've popped a little bit of ordinary violet, Windsor Violet, with to make it slightly more purple. But it's a lovely colour to mix with the yellows because it's making a lovely natural end result. So I've dipped it into the Windsor Violet as well, so that it can now start moving around and creating some nice colour blends. So tip, 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 and let these colours mingle together, making lovely natural colours for my lovely berries. And because there is a little bit of green in my subject, I'm just cleaning my brush, I've also got out a little bit of aqua green, just to pop here and there, just to let the green come into the picture. But mingled with the other colours, it's going to make greys, purpley colours, purpley greys, and lovely blends and mixes. Now I'm very happy with that, that looks nice. But if you feel that there is anywhere that you want to, I like the white that's left as well. So if there's anywhere that you feel you want to, looking at your subject, if there's anywhere that you want to actually just lighten up a little bit because you want to then paint something in that particular area, then just dab while it's still wet. It'll close in still again a little bit, but you can keep on dabbing, you can keep on allowing it to move. So I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to leave it now to dry. Don't forget to pop tape around the edge, and I've wrapped it right under. It is a block and it has been stuck, but at the same time this tape will safeguard any crinkling. It is crinkling at the moment, but it will flatten and the tape will help with that. Okay, so I'm quite happy with my little background there. And I'll leave it to dry and see how that goes. Remembering that it will dry up quite a lot lighter, as this one has. Used the same colours, similar technique. Didn't actually go quite to the edge, but that was my intention at the time, not sure why. And I've made a start with the fruit. So here goes. I've done a light drawing with my pencil. If I feel I need to, I will pop some pen around it afterwards. I didn't want to particularly draw it with pen. I felt it was going to be a little bit too restricting, in case I wanted to allow some of it to float into the background. I'm not sure that I do actually, but anyway. Right, I can get rid of my background colours. Now, the particular sloe that I'm looking at the moment is quite red. So I'm using the Perylene Violet, which is quite a good sort of base colour here. Trying to get lovely smooth edges because that's what I see. And I've also got some ultramarine blue for the lovely blue tinge that you see, bluey grey tinge on that fruit. It hasn't got a hard shine, so I wouldn't think of using any masking fluid with it. So any shine and bloom that I see, I'm going to lift off with my brush, or use a little eradicator brush as well. Right, a bit more red here. And actually I'm also using indigo for my dark. Over the top of these colours, I think that the indigo is actually going to be the right sort of colour. While it's still damp, you can drop more in, letting these colours mingle. So I'm blending again, and it gets darker under here. Now with a damp but not wet brush, I'm going to just lift off a little bit of the the shine, the soft shine, the bloom that I see on there. So that's quite a sort of mid-tone, that particular berry. The one above it has got a lot more blue in it. So I'm working over yellow here, so my blue will probably turn green a little bit, but maybe if I overemphasize the blue, it won't look too wrong. A lot of blue in this one. So I'm working quite wet, but if you have a bit more time than me, you can allow your water to soak into the paper a little bit more than I have, okay? And then there's some of the purple colour as well. And if you wanted to do something like this, as I mentioned in the last video, you could maybe get hold of some grapes, which I think would work, some black grapes, which I think would work similarly. You would need to work with similar colours. Right. That's okay. So that's actually got quite a nice little bit of bloom on there already. While this one's still damp, I'm just actually going to drop a little bit more colour in here. Working as wet as I do, I often have to go back in because the colour gets weakened by all the water that I use. I'm using an 8 brush that has a good point. That berry's getting bigger and bigger. There we go. Fortunately, they are quite big. This one's quite dark. But just needs a little bit more shadow on the side. I think it's being overshadowed by the branch, which is coming through. You may not be able to see it at the moment. But because that one was dry, it gave me the opportunity to go back on and paint it again to bring it up to a nice bright colour. Right, this one's got quite a lot of blue. Certainly not seeing any sloes around here. Normally I have lovely crab apples in the garden, but none this year at all. So it's not been easy getting hold of berries. Lots of purpley red under here. So as mentioned in the techniques, if you've laid water down the paint won't go past the water's edge, so that helps you to keep control nicely. The point is helping me to get a nice smooth edge. So if you have a similar liquidity on your brush as on the paper, you can go back in when it's still damp and just bring up the colour. But if your brush was too wet, you would create cabbage shapes and shapes that you don't particularly want. Right, I'm going to have to stop because I've only got 13 minutes or so left, and I want to do the branch and some leaves, but I've just got a few more berries to do here. Right, I finished off the berries this side and tried to make some of them a little bit lighter so that I'm getting variation in the berries. And I've just popped down a very light wash of raw sienna on the top of my branch so that you can see it. And I'm actually going to paint it upside down. I've turned the board upside down because I can actually get to the branch better. And see what I'm doing and not lean on some of the berries that are not yet dry. So what I'm doing now is, it's quite a light branch with various colours, varying tones of brown. So I'm actually now laying down a burnt sienna over the top of the raw sienna. And I can touch it a lot because I want to get texture. So if I actually drop some water on here at the moment, it's going to start moving that paint around, mingling those two colours together. And I'll come back to it in a minute and put some more depth in. So I'm looking for texture and not too much detail, but just giving the indication of what goes on with this branch. So you can see as the paint starts to dry up after it's moved around, it starts making texture marks for me and pushing the paint down towards the bottom edge a bit so that I'm getting a nice dark edge that I haven't actually drawn, but that the watercolour has made for me. So it's quite a watery mix at this stage, but I can start putting on a thicker mix in a minute to get a little bit more depth. Just sort of getting the shape of it at the moment. I've more or less stuck to the composition that was actually in the photo because it was a good composition. Might have changed it a little bit, but certainly not much. Just taken a section of it. Right, so let's get some little darks in now. So I've got neutral tint and or sepia here. Start putting a few darks in. You see what we've got in the berries, I think, is some sort of reflection and shadows and things that are cast from the branches and the leaves. They're the sort of shapes that you can actually see in the berries. I don't know if you can hear the hammering. My husband seems to be doing something to the wood burner. So make little branch type marks whereby you get little chips and little areas that are growing out, just to sort of break it up a bit. I think wet on wet lends itself quite well to branches. And you don't exactly see the markings that you've made. A bit of blue, ultramarine blue in there would be nice actually, on the top with the umbers. You don't exactly see what you've got until it dries more. But you can see that the texture marks are starting to take shape as it dries. So this is just a quick and easy way really, rather than to have to sit and put every single mark in that you see in front of you on that branch. This is a nice, quick and natural way of getting the effect. It's all in shadow under here, so it gets a bit darker. Darker in there. Any little crevice like that's going to have a lot of shadow in it, so, and that helps to bring the berries forward if it's surrounded by more depth. So ease up again as you come further this way, rather than blocking it in completely. It's quite a nice idea having the build-up of the different layers of colour. Nice and dark again under here, I think. So think about the way it would sit and what would be going on all the time, thinking about what it would be looking like in reality. Right, I think I can turn the book the right way up again. It's a bit warmer in this branch up here and smoother. Maybe this belongs to something else. You see, using a bigger brush makes you work a lot wetter actually than you would if you were using a small one, and allowing the watercolour to do the work for you. So we'll see what happens when that's dry. Still very wet, so you could still go back if it's really wet to drop a little bit more in, and then wait to see what happens before putting any more detailed marks on there. But I really quite like the way it's drying up. I like the blue. Always makes for a nice dark with the umbers. Right, okay. Now just a quick leaf or two, and I think you'll have the idea. Variety of colour in the leaves. There are some more yellowy ones and brighter green. Some are really dark because they're sitting in the shadows. So I have to decide what I want to do. I think I'll go for to begin with. I can't really work very well. It's very wet, that brush. But again, I'm dropping water back in. I'm creating one side of that leaf. Wait and see what happens when it's dry. But this is the cadmium yellow and Payne's grey mix, which has more yellow in it than the Payne's grey on this occasion. And so it's showing up as a nice yellowy sort of olivey type leaf. And I think that's the way it should go, really, because with having a lot of yellow in and in the background as well, it's going to look nice against the berries and the background. Anything too bright and too blue or too green is going to get away from the colours that I've been working with as complementary colours to the berries. So think about the complementary colours when you're working on your backgrounds or your subjects, deciding what looks nice, what colours look nice together. And hopefully it'll all come good in the end. So try and vary it a little bit this time with this last leaf here. I haven't put that many leaves in at the moment, but I could just paint a few more into the background at some point if I want to fill it up. But I have got this background that I've painted and don't really want to cover up too much. So I'm just indicating veining in these leaves without getting too complicated. There are lots and lots of leaves in there. But obviously I'm not going to go with all those. So I'm going to stop, do some more leaves, then we'll see it a bit more finished and the branch dried up a bit more, and we'll see how that looks then. Just 3 more little leaves to do, and I've got a bit loose with these leaves. Didn't really want to paint them too perfectly anyway, but haven't got a lot of time, so just getting them in quite loosely. I can tidy them up later if I feel they need it. A little bit of the purple which we've got in here on the top of some of these yellower leaves will look nice. So try things out. It's always good to put colour into your leaves that you've actually got going on in your subject. You can see that the stalk is now drying up and looking quite textured, which is good. These leaves are going over and changing colours, so world's your oyster really when that's happening, because you can put whatever you want in there, and when they're dry they'll look fine. And really I should put lots more in, but don't think I'm going to. I like the background. So vary leaves if you've got lots of them to do. And don't labour over them. I certainly haven't done that. But you can kind of indicate a few more without getting too detailed about it by just loosely painting in leaf shapes, dropping water on the top and giving the impression that there's more leaf going on perhaps, without having to get too bogged down with painting them perfectly, but just dropping little bits of greenery and leaf shapes into the background. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that because I think you can see what I've been trying to do today. But as this dries, this branch, you can actually just pop a little bit more detail and markings in if you feel that it's gone a bit flat, which it will if you use a lot of water, as I did. But just a few more little textured marks on there is going to make it stand out a little bit more and not look quite so flat. Okay, right, I'm not touching that anymore for now. When I attach it, you'll see if I've decided to do anything else to it or not, but I don't mind it as it is. I think it's okay. I just think that needs to come down a little bit further. And actually could put more twigs going on in the background with a tiny brush or a pipette or any of the other techniques that I've shown you. But that's a good start. And maybe in a small amount it would look better still. Let's see. Yeah, that way you don't have to do very much more at all. Yeah, job done, I think. Okay, so that's that. I also painted some leaves on a similar background using those same background colours. I was going to put pen on afterwards, but as often happens with me, I decide I quite like it as a watercolour and I haven't done that. But I did paint more leaf into the background in the ways that I was just explaining, so you can, see what that looks like when it's drying. I also didn't loosen any of the berries on here and allow them to go into the background because I just love the shapes and colours that they are. and didn't want to do it this time, but I did on that particular picture, and so you can see what I mean. You can allow some of the little berries to go as we did last time, making a looser end result and creating some background by blending away parts of your main subject. Another thing you can do if you want to do some quickies for cards or whatever is to use your pen, your thick pen, a Sharpie would do, or any you know, pen and ink with a nib and some Indian ink. Do your drawing of leaves and berries or whatever, and then just wash your colour over the top without colouring in, if you see what I mean, but allowing the background colours to just go around. And then you've got your subject depicted anyway, so that helps you to loosen up your background or your subject without too much hard work. And that's a similar one that I've done a drawing of. Don't know if you can see it because of the thing again. Yeah, just did the drawing with a pen, thick pen, very quickly, and washed the colour over afterwards, so that that makes for a very quick and easy little picture. Right, so that's it really for now. So as I've said, I would like you to choose your own subjects, and I'll be back with you on the 13th of December. But in the meantime, please use some of the techniques that I've gone over with you, and I'll come back and paint something Christmassy on the 13th of December using some of the techniques or a subject of my choice, and maybe then you can do a similar thing. But after that, I'm going to concentrate on things from the garden that are dried and dyed and wintry looking, and maybe using some of the wintry techniques alongside. Okay, so have a good week or two, and send me your things because I'd really love to see what you do, and good luck with your techniques. Take care. Bye bye.